You're listening to the weekly Parsha podcast, recorded with Hashem's never-ending assistance in Ramat Beit Shemesh, Israel, 5776, 2015. This week's Parsha is Parsha's Vayishlach. I'd like to focus in on the return of Yaakov Avinu, of Jacob, back to the land of Israel. And we find that he has a whole interaction with Esav, with the angel. I don't want to get into that at all, but what I do want to get into is that the Torah tells us that after that entire interaction, after his whole battle with the angel, after his whole discussion and his interaction with Esav, so the Torah tells us in chapter 33, verse 18, Vayovo Yaakov Shalem Ir Shechem. Jacob came whole. He was whole. He was complete. We'll see what that means. But he came to the city of Shechem, Asher Be'eretz Canaan, which is in the land of Canaan, in the land of Israel. B'voyoi mi Padan Aram. When he came from Padan Aram, Vayichan es Pnei Ha'ir, and he encamped there next to the city. Now, there's a few things here. Keep watching, listening carefully to these verses. They're very interesting. Need explanation. Next verse, verse 19. Vayiken es chelkas hasadeh. He acquired a portion in the field. Asher nota sham ohaloi, the place where he set up his tent. Miyah b'nei Chamor av Shechem, from the hands of the children of Chamor, the father of Shechem. B'mea ksita, he bought it with 100 ksita. Ksita is a certain type of coin. We'll see more about that soon. Now, what does it mean that Yaakov came and he was whole? So, Shalom Begufay, Rashi says he was complete in his body. Shnesrapi mitzlasei. He had healed from his interaction with the angel when he had been punched on his side, so to speak. Shalom B'mamoina, he was also whole in regards to his money. Shalechaser klum mikol oisei dairin. Just because he gave this entire present to Esav doesn't mean that he lost anything. Other way around, everything that he has were his needs, everything he had, and so he had everything that he needs. Shalom b'Torah, he was also complete in regards to his learning of Torah. He didn't forget any of his learning while he was in the house of Laban. Okay, so now he comes and he's whole, and we need to understand the significance of the fact that he's whole. What's the idea that he's whole, and what does it mean that he's coming into the city of Shechem? Why Shechem? What's the place of Shechem? And we know that Shechem is a place which was given later to Joseph. Yosef HaTzadik is actually buried there. Today you can go. It's actually kind of a challenge to go, but it's possible to go. I've gone there a few times to see the tomb of Joseph. It's in Shechem, what the Arabs call Nablus. But it's interesting the way the verse frames it. It says, when he came into the land of Canaan from Padan Aram, meaning he came from the Aramean lands, he came from his interactions with Laban, and he comes into Israel. What's the first place basically that he visits is Shechem. What's the significance of this? It's also very interesting because we find that Abraham also, when he first comes into Israel, the first place that he visits is Shechem. We also know that Shechem, as we said, was given to Joseph. It's the place of Pur'anus. It's a place of difficulties, of challenges. The following story, which we'll also perhaps touch upon, is the whole story with Dinah, how she's raped, and how the whole interaction with the brothers, and the brothers killing, Shimon and Levi killing all of the inhabitants of Shechem. What's the idea that this place is a place of confrontation? What's the idea? What's the concept of Shechem? Also interesting, the pasuk tells us that he purchased a field. It's only one of three places, the midrash is going to say, we're going to see it together, but it's one of three places where the Torah is explicit that our forefathers, Abraham did it with Maras Machpelah in Hebron. He bought the cave of the patriarchs. Over here, Jacob did it. He bought something, this piece of land in Shechem. And we also find that King David HaMelech, bought the Temple Mount from Arnava Hayavusi, the Jebusite. He bought this place. All of these three places were explicitly bought. What is the idea here? That they're purchasing this place? What's the significance of this place? What's the significance of why does the Torah need to tell us that this place was purchased? So in addressing this issue, the midrash tells us something which actually creates more questions than it answers. Let's see what it says in the midrash. This is in Parsha Ayin Tes 79, and it's number 7. It's piece number 7. Vayiken es chelkas hasoda asher nota sham ohaloi. The midrash quotes the verse that says that Jacob purchased this piece of land, the mea ksita, for 100 ksita, a certain type of coin. Amar Rabbi Yudin said, Bar Simon, the son of Simon, Ze'echa mishleshim akamis. This is one of three places that from this verse we see something, that the nations of the world do not have a right to say anything to the Jewish people, to cause them pain, to cause them anguish, to say that the land of Israel is stolen. You have stolen it. They don't have a right. The nations of the world can't say to the Jewish people that we have stolen anything. There are 3 locations where we find that the Jews bought it, acquired it with full payment. Ve'elohein. These are they. Marasa Machpelah, as we said, the first one is the cave of the patriarchs in Hebron, Uveis HaMikdash, and the Temple Mount, Ukvuraseh Shel Yosef, and the place where Joseph is buried, which is Shechem. The midrash continues and proves this from 3 different verses, where we see explicitly that it was bought. Now, it's not a coincidence that today, in our times, these 3 locations are being claimed by the Arabs. Unbelievable thing. The 3 places that the midrash says that no one can ever claim that we have stolen from them, and the Arabs themselves, they admit that the Torah is true, that Moses, the prophecy of Moses was a true prophecy, and here we have explicit in our Torah that these belong to us, and yet they are claiming it. How do we understand that? How do we understand that the very places that the midrash says can never be claimed by anyone else are indeed being claimed today? Now, what's really interesting is that the midrash continues with something which seems completely unrelated. The midrash goes through a number of different words that we have in Hebrew, that are in the Torah, which we're not sure exactly what they mean. And the midrash tells us a few different stories of how the Chachamim, our sages, were able to figure out the meaning of those words, because they were able to actually go and listen, or they happened, so to speak, to hear an Arab speaking in the Arabic language of that time, and when they heard the way that word was used, they were able to understand what the word means in Hebrew in the Torah. Now, in explaining this, the Eitz Yosef, one of the commentaries on the midrash, he explains that the Arabic language is actually a distorted form of Hebrew. And so, that being the case, it's possible that there can be words in Arabic that if you figure out what they mean in Arabic, you'll be able to then bring them back and try to understand what that word means in Hebrew. Now, one of those words is actually the word in our pasuk, which is kesita, and which is why the midrash brings it, or this is on the surface level why the midrash brings it, but I believe there's a deeper level. But the word kesita, which is the 100 coins, the type of coin that was used by Yaakov Avinu, by Jacob, to purchase his land. What's the word kesita? They didn't know what the word meant until they heard an Arab using the word kesita to mean a coin, and then they were able to understand what the verse means when it says mea kesita. Now, on the surface level, this midrash is very cute or very nice. We can learn all kinds of things from everyone around us, and we can bring it back into Torah. There's something, you could say a nice drasha about it. But I want to understand at the depth of it. What is the significance of the fact, or how do we understand, or why is the midrash even telling us all of these different stories about words they didn't understand? What does it mean when Chazal didn't understand a word? I mean, you can figure it out from the verse. If you look at the context, you can intuitively figure out that he's purchasing this. And obviously, if he's giving 100 somethings, kesita, we don't know what kesita means. If he's giving 100 somethings to purchase, we can figure it out that it's a coin. So there must be something more Chazal are trying to tell us when they say that we were able to figure out what the word means by listening to Arabic. What is the significance of this idea? Now, hold on to all those questions. I'd like to go a little bit further in the Parsha, the next few verses, and I'd like to ask a few questions there, which seem to be unrelated, but actually are almost the identical concept that explains both of these ideas, both of these different concepts, which of course the Torah places next to each other. It's never a coincidence. And it's not a coincidence also that this story happens in Shechem. We need to understand the idea of Shechem. The Torah tells us, the beginning of the next chapter, in chapter 34, verse 1, Vateitze Dina bas Leah, asher yolda liYaakov. Dina, the daughter of Leah, which Jacob had birthed, she went out. L'rois bivnei haaretz. She wanted to find some girls in that land, some nice girls that she could interact with. The Torah goes on to tell us the whole story of Shechem, the son of Hamor, how he saw her and he wanted her, and then he raped her, and then he tried to convince the family of Yaakov to let him marry her, etc. Very difficult story, very challenging, very disturbing. Now, at the very beginning of this story, the first words, Rashi tells us something, the midrash speaks about it at length. Rashi says, Vateitze Dina bas Leah. What does it mean? Why does the Torah say that she was the daughter of Leah? Why does it tell us that first? Why does it point out that she's the daughter of Leah as she's going out? So Rashi tells us, V'loi bas Yaakov, it says that she's the daughter of Leah. She's not the daughter of Jacob also? Why is it specifically telling us this? El Hashem Yitziyasa Nikres bas Leah. The Torah is telling us that she went out, and in that respect, the way that she went out was reminiscent of her mother Leah. Sha'afi Yatzanis Haisa. Leah was also somebody who went out. Shenemar, as the verse says earlier, Vatetze Leah lekrasai, that Leah had made an agreement with Rachel. She had given her the dudaim, and in exchange, she was going to, instead of Yaakov being that night with Rachel, Jacob was going to be with Leah. So she went out to tell Yaakov about their deal, that they had made up, that they had switched things around, and as a result of that, he went and was with her in her tent. Now, the fact that she went out, the fact that she did something which was on her level, we're talking about the Imois, the matriarchs here, we have to understand, of course, these were the greatest human beings that ever lived. But on her level, she did something which was a lack of tznius. She did something which was immodest on her level. Now, because Leah was somebody who exhibited a certain chisaron, a certain lack in that area of modesty, so Dinah, her daughter, also had that attribute. It hadn't been perfected yet, and it manifested in a stronger way in Dinah, and she went out with a certain lack of modesty. She went out into Shechem, and as a result of that, this is what happened. Now, I want to also point out what the midrash says. Rashi doesn't quote the midrash completely, but the midrash actually speaks about the fact that when Dinah went out, she didn't just go out in an immodest way. She actually went out wearing provocative clothing. And the midrash says, in the same way, she was actually doing something that her mother had done. She also came out provocatively to Yaakov, to Jacob. Of course, there the context is different. It's between a man and his wife. But still, there was some lack of tznius, some lack of modesty, that as a result of Leah's lack of modesty, it resulted in Dinah's lack of modesty. You know, as we read this midrash, it's very difficult to understand. Again, Leah Imenu, we're talking about the matriarch of Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people. She had 6 sons, six tribes came from her. And all of these tribes were the greatest people, the greatest of men. They were the beginnings of the tribes, the root of the people of Israel. And with the way the Chazal speak about her is challenging. The fact that she came out in provocative dress, that's one challenge. But the fact that Dinah, that her daughter Dinah, she also did this type of thing, and in a more provocative way, and in a more inappropriate context. And Chazal say that it was because of her mother, that it was she was following in the footsteps, so to speak, of her mother. How are we to understand this? What is the concept here? What is this midrash? What is Rashi coming to teach us? What is this midrash coming to teach us? And I believe that there's an amazing concept that we see here, a really beautiful idea. And it's an expansion on something that we've spoken about previously. We spoke about the fact that the Jewish people, in a certain sense, are the koilo. They are the soul, the combining soul, the one aspect, the overarching aspect, the transcendent aspect, which includes all the nations of the world. There are 70 nations, and there's one Am Yisrael, there's one nation, the Jewish people. And in the same way, we spoke about the fact that Yaakov Avinu, Jacob, he was the one, he was the transcendent, he was the koilo, who included the spiritual power of all of his 70 descendants. Now, we could also speak about this in terms of a higher dimension, a dimension where everything is nichlal, where everything is included, and a lower dimension where you see different aspects, a flattened version, if you will, of that three-dimensional, that higher aspect. You have a higher aspect which is all-inclusive, and you have the lower aspect, or a lower dimension, where you see pieces of that higher aspect. Yaakov is the one who includes all that spiritual power. His 12 sons and all of his 70 progeny are different aspects of Yaakov, of Jacob. The Jewish people spiritually include all of the people of the world, all of the Umas Ha'olam, all the nations of the world. The land of Israel, the way Chazal speak about it, where sages speak about it, includes all of the spiritual and physical aspects of the entire world. It's the place of Kailo. It's the place that's all-inclusive. It's the higher dimension of all of the reality that we see throughout the entire world. Jerusalem is the all-inclusive aspect of the land of Israel. So whatever you're going to see in the land of Israel, Israel is a lower dimension in relationship to Jerusalem. And we could speak about this in many different examples, but we see this idea of a higher dimension, which we can also refer to as the male dimension, the giving dimension. A parent is also, even a woman can be a male, so to speak, because the woman gives to her children. She's the higher dimension, and she gives to her children who are the receiving dimension. The male and the female aspect. So you have the male aspect, which is the giving dimension, which is the inclusive dimension, and you have the female aspect, which is the dimension where you see the higher dimension broken down, and you see it in a different state, in a different form. We could even call it an almost distorted version of the higher dimension, because you don't see the full 3 dimensions. You see it in 2D, so to speak. So you're only seeing pieces of that higher dimension. Now, what connects these 2 dimensions? What connects the male and the female dimension? So the answer is the aspect of the tzaddik. The righteous one, the Jewish people in a certain sense, are the tzaddik of the world. We are the people who connect the higher realms, the spiritual realms, God as it were. We are the connecting force which connects God to the world, connects God to the Ummah Sa'alam, to the nations of the world. That's why we're called a light unto the nations. That's the aspect of the tzaddik, the connector, that connects the male and female aspects. And it corresponds in the physical interaction, it corresponds to the aspect of the male, which connects into the female, which is the male organ of reproduction. Now, it's not a coincidence that the aspect of Shechem is connected to Yosef. Joseph is the one who receives the city. He's the one who's buried in the city. Jacob gives it as a special present to him. It's not a coincidence that the story that happens in Shechem is one that has to do with an interaction between the Jewish people at their very beginnings and these people of Canaan. And it has to do with this aspect of connection between male and female. These are not coincidences. This is all the foundation of what's going on here in Shechem. Shechem is the place of connection between the entire world. Shechem is the tzaddik, so to speak. It's this aspect of connection between the entire world and the land of Israel. As we said, Israel is the higher dimension, so to speak, and it's the relative higher dimension of the entire world. So when Jacob is returning to the land of Israel, the first place that he touches is Shechem. He walks through and he stops in Shechem. He makes an acquisition which represents his setting down his roots in the land of Israel. And there's a question mark over here. What does the word kisita mean? We'll get to that idea, why there's this question mark here. But what we see is that Shechem is the crossover place. Really interesting. The word Shechem, the letters are Shin, Chaf, and Mem. The gematria of those 3 letters is 360. Now, what's the significance of 360, which is 10 times 36? So classically, we know that there are 36 tzaddikim. There are 36 righteous individuals who hold up the world. What is the idea of 36? So the tzaddik, the aspect of Joseph, is the number 6. We find the 6th night of Sukkot is the night of Joseph. It's when we invite him into our sukkah. The aspect of the tzaddik is 6. It has to do with Friday. The connection between Friday into Shabbos is the night of Shabbos, is the night, the Friday night is this aspect of the tzaddik. It's the time, a special time for connection between a man and his wife. But the idea of Yosef as the number 6, who's the connector between the male and female aspects, between the spiritual realms and the physical realms. The idea of 6, when you have 6 times 6, so that's 36. It's the completion of the concept of 6, is these 36 tzaddikim who connect and keep the world alive. And Shechem is 10 times that 36. It's 360. It's that place of connection between the upper realms and the lower realms. Now, we still need to understand what's going on with Dinah. Why is this story, in a certain sense, being blamed on her mother? What's the idea that the Arabic language, we can derive something from there, that it's going to explain something in Hebrew? What's the idea that all of the places the Torah says are ours, that the Torah explicitly states belong to us? Why are these Arabs claiming it? And the depth of it is, the deep understanding of it is, that whatever the Jewish people is, whoever we are, it's reflected, and it's reflected in a distorted way in the Ummah Sa'alam, in the nations of the world. That's the depth of what the Eitz Yosef says when he says that sometimes we don't understand something, we're missing something in our understanding of Torah. But I can actually go to the Arabic language, which is a distorted version of Hebrew, and I can understand something there that I'm missing here, that I don't understand in Hebrew itself. The idea is that there's when you come down to the lower level, in a certain sense there's a distortion, but there's also something there that I can be typhus, that I can grab onto, that I'm missing as I try to access a transcendent place. Sometimes it's very difficult to access that transcendent place directly, and I need to do it through that lower realm. And so I can go to Arabic, because the Arabic is the two-dimensional version of the higher dimensional Hebrew. And if we look at these three places, it's not a coincidence that the Arabs they want these three places, or they're claiming these three places. Because as the Jewish people come back and reclaim these three places, and reclaim our rightful ownership of these three places, based on the Torah, based on the higher dimensional aspect of a spiritual revelation, which everyone agrees to, as we desire it, as we start to want it. So it happens, it's manifests also in the nations of the world. It's a reflection, it's a distorted reflection, and they're trying to claim it as if it's theirs and not ours. So that's the distortion. But the truth of it is, the depth of it is, that Eretz Yisrael is a place that everybody feels connected to, and everyone wants to feel connected to. It's not a coincidence that this tiny country is always in the news. It's always, everybody needs to know about it, because everyone is connected. Because Jerusalem and Israel are the root, the transcendent aspect, the all-inclusive aspect of the entire world. Now, this idea also explains what it means, what our Chazal mean when they say that Dinah bas Leah, she went out. She was the daughter of Leah, and she went out just like Leah went out. Leah's going out was with her husband. It was a very slight, perhaps, infraction, or a subtle infraction of the idea of modesty. But how can we understand that it has to do with Dinah's going out in a way which was provocative? And the answer is that whatever you see in the root, whatever's in the transcendent aspect, in the higher aspect, it manifests in a distorted way, in a more exaggerated way sometimes, in the lower aspect. So Dinah, yes, she had a chisarn, she had something lacking. And what also comes out of it is that you can see something in the lower dimension which is a reflection on something which is missing in the higher dimension. So yes, the fact that Dinah had this trait, this character trait, this lack, was a reflection in something that was missing in her mother. And in fact, Chazal also tried to understand what was missing in Yaakov. Why did this happen to the daughter of Jacob? Because the pasuk also refers to the fact that she was Jacob's child. So clearly, in trying to look for a chisar, some lack in Jacob as well, the understanding is that whatever you see in the lower realm is a manifestation of something in the higher realm. In thinking about the application of this idea, there's so many different ways that you can apply this. One application is that the fact that the Arabs so want the Temple Mount, they're trying to claim it. They so want the Maras Machpelah cave of the patriarchs. They claim rights to Shechem, to the city, to the tomb of Joseph itself. They claim rights to being the connectors between the spiritual realm and the physical realm, when it's not true. That's not the true reality. But it's something that we can see. They're claiming that, and this is something that can inspire us. Sometimes we don't even realize ourselves how the Temple Mount, how Jerusalem, how Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, is so important to us. But sometimes we need to see how it's manifest in the lower realm, how it's manifest in the desire of the nations of the world. And then it can reflect back on us so that we can understand it on a depth. And that's the understanding, that's the depth of what Chazal are teaching us when we go to Arabic and we try to understand a word in Hebrew. Sometimes we're missing something on our understanding. Yaakov comes to Shechem, and he's in a state of perfection, as we mentioned all the way at the beginning. And that is something which earns him the right to purchase a piece of the land of Israel, to purchase Dafka Shechem, that place of connection between the heavens and the earth, that place which is a connection between Israel and the entire world. He has earned it through his shlemus, through his perfecting of himself, through his getting to a state of tzaddik, of righteousness, of connection between God and the world. But right there's a question. What does it mean, me'exita? He bought it with 100 somethings. What is that word? When we ask that question, what is that word? It means, Do we get it? Do we understand what it means that he purchased it? That he had the right, that he had the schus, the merit to be able to purchase it? Do we understand what it takes for us to be able to merit to have the land of Israel, to be that true light unto the nations? Are we indeed fulfilling that? Sometimes we need to look at the commitment and the fervor of the nations around us. We have to look at their language in order to understand our own language. We need to look at their commitment to God, their commitment, their selflessness, their self-sacrifice for God in order to remember what ours is supposed to look like. And I believe that that's a core message of what this midrash is trying to teach us. Hashem should help us to be able to internalize this message, to get it on our own, and not necessarily need to learn it from others who are a distorted reflection of who we're supposed to be, but rather to be able to see it ourselves from the Torah, from what the Torah expects of us, to be able to garner that message from Hashem's word to us, Hashem's revelation to us. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful Shabbos. This podcast was made possible through the gracious donations of listeners like you. For more podcasts like this, please visit www.arigoldwag.com or search on iTunes Ari Goldwag.